I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. When you grow up thinking you know everything about your family, who you are, where you came from, what your parents sacrificed, and then find out it was all carefully constructed fiction, it breaks something inside you that doesn't just heal. My name is Emma. I'm 31 years old. And 3 months ago, at my younger brother's wedding to one of the wealthiest families in our state, I discovered that my entire childhood was a lie. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. My parents weren't the villains in this story. They were. It started 6 months before the wedding, on a Tuesday evening in March. I was at my parents' house for dinner, something I did every week since moving back to town after my divorce. My brother Tyler had texted saying he had big news, which usually meant he'd gotten a promotion or bought a new car. Tyler was always achieving something, always climbing. He arrived with his girlfriend Vanessa. Now, Vanessa wasn't someone we knew well. They'd been dating for about 8 months, but she was always busy with work, always traveling. Tyler had met her at some networking event. He worked in commercial real estate. She did something in finance that I never fully understood. What I did understand was that Vanessa came from money, real money. Not we're comfortable money. Not we saved well money. Old money. The kind that comes with a family name that's on buildings. Tyler walked in that night with this glow about him. You know that look people get when they're about to change their entire life and they know it. That. "We're getting married," he announced before we'd even sat down. My mother gasped. My father stood up so fast he knocked over his water glass. And me? I felt this weird tightness in my chest. Not jealousy exactly, more like vertigo. Like the world had just tilted and I was trying to find my footing. "That's wonderful," Mother said, already tearing up. She'd been worried about Tyler, I think. Worried he'd become too focused on work, too driven, too much like our father used to be. Vanessa smiled, this perfect, practiced smile, and extended her hand to show us the ring. It was obscene. I'm talking a diamond so large it looked fake, except I knew it wasn't. "We want to do it this September," Tyler continued. "Vanessa's parents have a summer estate upstate, and her mother's already started planning. It's going to be big." "How big?" I asked. Vanessa's smile didn't waver. 300 guests. My family has a lot of obligations. Business partners, family friends, that sort of thing. My parents exchanged a look I couldn't quite read. "That's very generous," my father said quietly. "But Tyler, that kind of wedding, the cost." "Dad, it's handled," Tyler said quickly. "Vanessa's parents are paying for everything. They insist." "We couldn't possibly," my mother started. "Please, Miss Morrison," Vanessa interjected smoothly. "My parents want to do this. They're so happy that Tyler's joining our family. And honestly, this is just how we do things. It would actually offend them if you tried to contribute." The way she said joining our family made it sound like Tyler was being inducted into something exclusive, something we weren't quite good enough to understand. I watched my parents' faces carefully. My mother looked overwhelmed. My father looked afraid. That should have been my first clue. Over the next few months, Tyler became someone I barely recognized. The wedding consumed everything. Every conversation somehow circled back to venues, caterers, the guest list, what Vanessa's mother wanted. "Her mom thinks we should do a string quartet for the ceremony and a full band for the reception," Tyler told me one afternoon when we met for coffee. "Can you believe they're flying in this jazz ensemble from New Orleans?" "That sounds expensive," I said. "Emma, don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I'm just saying—" "You're just saying what? That Vanessa's family spends too much money? That we're not good enough for them?" "I never said that." "You didn't have to. I can hear it in your voice every time we talk about the wedding. You think I'm selling out or something." I stirred my coffee, choosing my words carefully. "I think you're changing, and I think you're letting them change you." Tyler's jaw tightened. "Maybe I'm just becoming who I was supposed to be. Did you ever think of that? Maybe growing up the way we did helped me back." "The way we grew up? Tyler, Mom and Dad gave us everything." "They gave us what they could," he corrected. "There's a difference." That conversation haunted me for weeks. Growing up, our parents had been solidly middle class. Dad worked as an accountant for a small firm. Mom was a teacher. We weren't wealthy, but we weren't poor either. We took one vacation a year, usually to some lake cabin. We had everything we needed, and some of what we wanted. It was a good childhood. A normal childhood. Or so I'd thought. The engagement party was held at Vanessa's parents' main residence, a sprawling estate in the suburbs that looked like something out of a magazine. I'm talking marble floors, crystal chandeliers, a staircase that curved like something from a movie. There was a staff, actual staff in uniforms, carrying trays of champagne and appetizers I couldn't pronounce. My parents looked terrified. Mom had bought a new dress for the occasion, something modest and appropriate from a department store. Dad wore his one good suit, the one he'd had since my wedding 5 years ago. They looked so small standing in that foyer, clutching each other's hands. Vanessa's mother, Patricia, swept in wearing what I'm sure was a designer gown that cost more than my car. "You must be the Morrisons," she said warmly, but there was something in her eyes, something appraising. Welcome. Please, make yourselves at home." The phrase, "make yourselves at home," felt almost cruel in a place like that. The party was full of people who existed in a different stratosphere. Lawyers, surgeons, business owners, politicians. Everyone dressed impeccably. Everyone speaking in that particular way wealthy people do. Lots of understated references to things and places that signal status without being explicit. I found Tyler by the bar, already on his second drink. "This is insane," I whispered. "Isn't it amazing?" he said, completely missing my tone. "Tyler, look at Mom and Dad. They're miserable." He glanced over at our parents, who were standing awkwardly near a window, not talking to anyone. "They just need to relax," he said. "They're always so worried about everything. They're worried because they don't belong here. We don't belong here. Speak for yourself." I stared at my brother, really stared at him, and realized I didn't know him anymore. The Tyler I grew up with was kind, thoughtful. He used to help Mom with groceries without being asked. He remembered birthdays and called just to check in. This Tyler was harder, sharper, more concerned with appearances than people. Vanessa appeared at his side, sliding her arm through his. "There you are. Come, I want you to meet Daddy's business partner." She led him away without even acknowledging me. I stood there, champagne in hand, watching my brother disappear into this world that would swallow him whole. 2 weeks before the wedding, my father asked me to meet him for lunch. Just the two of us, which was unusual. Dad wasn't really the special one-on-one time type. He showed love through actions, not words. We met at a diner near his office, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like it's been sitting since morning. He looked older than I remembered, more tired. "Emma," he said after we'd ordered, "I need to ask you something." "Okay." At the wedding, during the toasts, "If anything comes up, anything unexpected, I need you to trust that your mother and I did what we thought was right." I set down my water glass. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "I can't explain right now. I'm probably being paranoid. But Vanessa's family, they're the type to do background checks, to dig into things. And if they've found something, if they've discovered..." He trailed off, his hands shaking slightly around his coffee cup. "Discovered what?" "Just promise me you'll trust us, no matter what you hear." "You're scaring me." "I know, and I'm sorry. I have this feeling that everything's about to come out, and I want you to be prepared." "Dad, please, what's going on?" He looked at me with such sadness in his eyes. "I hope you never have to find out." That was all he'd say. No matter how much I pressed, he stayed silent. I left that lunch with a sense of dread that settled in my stomach like a stone. The wedding was held at Vanessa's family's summer estate, a property so vast it had its own name, Whitmore Manor. I arrived the day before with my parents, driving up a winding road lined with old-growth trees. The house came into view gradually, a massive stone structure with wings that seemed to go on forever, gardens that looked professionally maintained, and a view of a private lake. "Jesus," I muttered. My mother said nothing, but her knuckles were white on the door handle. We were shown to our rooms, and I used the word rooms deliberately because we each got an entire suite. Mine had a 4-poster bed, a sitting area, and a bathroom larger than my first apartment. Tyler was nowhere to be found. He was staying in a different wing, the one reserved for the wedding party. That evening, there was a rehearsal dinner, another elaborate affair with more courses than seemed necessary, and wine that probably cost more per bottle than I made in a week. Patricia stood up at the end of the meal, champagne flute in hand. "I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate this beautiful union," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "Tyler, darling, we are so thrilled to welcome you into our family. You're exactly the kind of man we always hoped Vanessa would find." She paused, and something shifted in her expression, something that made my skin prickle. "And of course, we're grateful to the Morrisons for raising such a fine young man. It must have been quite a journey for you all." The way she emphasized journey felt pointed, deliberate. My father's face went pale. "In fact," Patricia continued, "we've been learning so much about your family. It's fascinating, really, how much people can reinvent themselves, how much they can overcome." The room went very quiet. "Patricia," Vanessa's father Robert said quietly, a warning. But Patricia smiled, sharp and bright. "I'm simply saying that we're impressed. Not everyone could have done what you did, Richard, starting over, building a new life." My father stood up slowly. "Excuse me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I need some air." He walked out, and my mother followed immediately. I sat frozen, my brain trying to process what had just happened. Tyler looked confused but not alarmed. Vanessa was whispering something to her mother, looking annoyed, and I realized with absolute certainty that tomorrow's wedding was going to be a disaster. I found my parents outside, standing by the lake. My father was crying. I'd never seen my father cry, not once in 31 years. "Dad? Mom, what's happening?" My mother turned to me, and I saw that she'd been crying too. "Oh, sweetheart. Please tell me what's going on. Patricia knows something. What does she know?" My father wiped his eyes and took a shaky breath. "We need to tell you. Before tomorrow. Before she does it publicly." "Does what publicly?" "Ruins everything," he said bitterly. "She's been investigating us." They found the truth." "What truth?" My mother took my hand. "Emma, your father and we've been lying to you and Tyler your entire lives. About where we came from. About who we really are." The world seemed to tilt again, worse than before. 23 years ago, my father began, his voice hollow. "Your mother and I made a decision. We changed our names. We erased our past. We started completely over." "Why?" "Because I came from money too," he said. "Real money. More money than the Whitmore family could dream of." I actually laughed. It was so absurd. That's not funny, Dad." "I'm not joking. My family, your grandparents, they owned one of the largest manufacturing companies in the country. We were rich, Emma. Obscenely rich." "Then where is it? Where's all this money?" "Gone," my mother said quietly. "Your father gave it all up." My father told me everything that night, standing by that dark lake. His real name wasn't Richard Morrison. It was Richard Ashford. The Ashford family had been American royalty, the kind of family that threw parties presidents attended. They had multiple estates, private jets, connections that spanned continents, and they were rotten to the core. "My father, your grandfather, he was a monster," Dad said, his voice shaking. "He used people. He destroyed competitors. He bribed politicians. He had affairs openly, humiliated my mother constantly, and he expected me to become just like him. I was 25 when I met your mother. She was a teacher at a school where my family was doing some PR philanthropy event. She was real, genuine. She saw me as a person, not as an Ashford. My mother squeezed his hand. We fell in love, and when I told my father I wanted to marry her, he laughed in my face. Said she was beneath us, said if I married her, I'd be cut off completely. No inheritance, no trust fund, no family support. So you married her anyway, I said. I did more than that. I exposed them. I took everything I knew about their illegal activities, the bribes, the fraud, the money laundering, and I gave it to federal investigators. I burned it all down. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The scandal destroyed them. My father went to prison. My mother died of a heart attack during the trial. The company collapsed, and I walked away from everything. The name, the money, all of it. We changed our names, my mother continued. We moved across the country. We built a normal life. We wanted you and Tyler to grow up without that poison, without that corruption. Why didn't you tell us? I asked. Because we were ashamed, my father said. Because I betrayed my own family. Because I chose to destroy them rather than become like them. And I didn't want you to carry that weight. I didn't want you to know that you came from people like that. Does Tyler know? No, we were going to tell him, but then he met Vanessa, and we hoped maybe it wouldn't matter, that we'd gotten far enough away. But Patricia found out. Her investigators found the connection. They found old records, old articles. They know who I really am, who I was. And she's going to use it. My father nodded. She's going to destroy Tyler's wedding. She's going to humiliate us in front of everyone, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. The next day dawned sunny and perfect. I barely slept. My mind kept turning over everything my parents had told me, trying to reconcile the father I knew with this man who'd been born into wealth, who'd destroyed his own family. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 o'clock in the garden, an elaborate setup with hundreds of white chairs, flower arrangements that must have cost a fortune, and an arch covered in roses. Guests arrived in luxury cars, dressed in designer everything. I recognized faces from TV, from magazines. This wasn't just a wedding, it was a social event. Tyler looked, nervous but happy, standing at the altar with his groomsmen. Vanessa was still getting ready. These things always start late when you're that rich. I sat with my parents in the 3rd row. My father kept checking his watch. My mother held a tissue, already prepared. Maybe she won't do it, I whispered. Maybe she'll just let it go. My father shook his head slightly. People like Patricia don't let things go. They use them. The ceremony started. Vanessa came down the aisle looking like something from a fairy tale. Tyler's face lit up when he saw her. For a moment, I thought maybe we were wrong. Maybe this would be fine. The officiant went through the traditional passages, the vows, the rings, and then, during what should have been the final blessing, Patricia stood up. Before we conclude, she said loudly, clearly, I'd like to say a few words. The officiant looked confused. This wasn't part of the program. Tyler and Vanessa turned, equally confused. This is a day of truth, Patricia continued, walking toward the front. A day when 2 families join together, and I believe that joining should be built on honesty. No, I thought, please no. So I think everyone here should know exactly who they're celebrating with. Richard Morrison, or should I say, Richard Ashford. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My father stood up. Patricia, don't do this. Don't do what? Tell the truth? Your son is marrying into our family, Richard. Don't you think he deserves to know where he really comes from? Tyler looked at our father, bewildered. Dad, what is she talking about? Patricia smiled. Your father was born into one of the wealthiest families in America, and he destroyed them. He sent his own father to prison. He caused his mother's death. He stole billions, yes, billions worth of family legacy and burned it all down. The crowd erupted in whispers. That's not... My father started, but his voice broke. And then he ran away, Patricia continued. continued. Changed his name, hid like a coward, pretended to be ordinary. I pretended to be decent, my father shouted, and the volume of his voice shocked everyone into silence. I pretended to be human, which is more than my family ever was. You betrayed your blood. My blood was poison! Tyler stumbled down from the altar. Dad, is this true? Is any of this true? My father's face crumpled. Yes, all of it. You were rich? We could have been rich? Tyler, you don't understand. I understand that you kept this from me, that you let me grow up thinking we were nobody when we were somebody. We weren't somebody, my mother said, standing now too. The Ashfords were criminals, abusers. Your father saved us from that life. Saved us? Tyler laughed, harsh and bitter. He stole from us. He took away everything we could have been. Vanessa touched his arm. Tyler, maybe we should... Stay out of this! He whirled on her. This is your mother's fault. She dug this up. She exposed us. Because she had the right to know what kind of family she was joining, Patricia shot back. You mean what kind of family wasn't good enough for you? I said, surprised by my own voice. Everyone turned to look at me. I stood up, walked to the front, my heart pounding. That's what this is really about, isn't it, Patricia? You found out that our father actually came from more money than you, that he actually had more status, more power, more of everything you worship. And instead of being impressed that he walked away from it on principle, you're offended. Because how dare someone reject what you spend your whole life chasing? Patricia's face flushed. I am trying to protect my daughter. From what? From people who value character over cash? From people who think being a good person matters more than having the right last name? Emma, Tyler said, stop it. No, you stop it, Tyler. Look at what you've become. Look at how you've changed. You used to be kind. You used to care about things that mattered. Now you're ashamed of Mom and Dad because they didn't give you a trust fund? That's not fair, isn't it? You literally just said Dad stole from us. He didn't steal anything, Tyler. He gave us something more valuable than money. He gave us a chance to be good people, to build our own lives, to not be defined by some family legacy of corruption. Easy for you to say, Tyler spat. You're not the one marrying into this world. You're not the one who has to explain where you come from. Where you come from, I laughed. Tyler, you come from two people who love you, who sacrificed everything to give you a good life. Mom gave up potential money and status to marry Dad. Dad gave up billions to do the right thing. And all you can see is what you didn't get. Vanessa stepped forward, her eyes glistening. Tyler, is that true? Are you ashamed of your parents? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The look on his face said everything. Vanessa pulled off her veil slowly, carefully, like she was waking up from a dream. I thought I knew you, she said quietly. I thought you were different from the men my mother usually approved of. You seemed genuine, real. I am real, Tyler protested. Are you? Because the man I fell in love with talked about his parents with such respect, such love. He told me stories about family dinners and road trips and how his dad taught him to change a tire in the rain. And now you're standing here, at our wedding, saying your father stole from you? Vanessa, you don't understand the position I'm in. What position? The position of having parents who actually love you? Who actually chose to do the right thing even when it cost them everything? She looked at my parents, really looked at them for the first time. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, I am so sorry. My mother had no right to do this. No right to expose your past like this. Patricia started to object, but Vanessa held up a hand. No, Mom, you were wrong. You were cruel. And you've shown me something today that I needed to see. She turned back to Tyler. I can't marry you. Not like this. Not when you can't see what an incredible gift your parents gave you. What gift? Poverty? Obscurity? Choice, Vanessa said simply. They gave you choice. They gave you the chance to become whoever you wanted to be, not whoever you were expected to be. And you became someone shallow, someone who values the wrong things. She handed him her bouquet. I'm sorry, Tyler. I really am. I hope someday you understand what you've lost today, and I don't mean me. She walked down the aisle, out of the garden, leaving 300 guests in stunned silence. Tyler stood there, holding white roses, looking lost. Patricia made a small sound of distress and hurried after her daughter. And my father, my wonderful, broken father, walked up to Tyler and put a hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, Dad said. I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth. I thought I was protecting you. I thought if you didn't know, you wouldn't have to carry the shame of it. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. What shame? What did you have to be ashamed of? Everything. My family they were terrible people, Tyler. They hurt others without thought. They used their wealth as a weapon. And I was supposed to continue that legacy. I was supposed to become them. But you didn't. No, I chose your mother instead. I chose love over money. I chose morality over power. And I've never regretted it, not once. Even now, even after this, especially now, because this, he gestured to the chaos around them. This is exactly what I was trying to save you from. This world, these people, this obsession with status and appearance. Tyler looked at me, then at Mom, then back at Dad. I've been such an idiot. Yes, I said. You really have. He laughed, a wet, painful sound. What do I do? Now? Now, Mom said, coming forward to hug him. You come home. You remember who you really are. And you start over. Without Vanessa. Without anyone who makes you feel like you're not enough exactly as you are. The guests dispersed quickly after that. Nobody knew what to do with the canceled wedding, especially one that ended with such dramatic revelations. We stayed, the four of us, sitting in those white chairs as the sun set and the staff started dismantling the decorations. I need to know, Tyler said finally. Tell me everything, the whole story. Don't leave anything out. So our parents did. They told us about the Ashford family, the mansions, the parties, the business empire. They told us about grandfather's cruelty, about Dad's decision to expose the corruption, about the trial and the scandal. They told us about changing their names, about moving in the middle of the night, about always looking over their shoulders, afraid the remaining Ashford loyalists would find them. We were afraid of what you'd think of us, Mom said. Afraid you'd see us as cowards for running. You weren't cowards, I said. You were brave. Running from all that money, all that power, that takes real courage. I don't know about courage, Dad said, but I know I couldn't have lived with myself if I'd stayed, if I'd become what they wanted me to be. Do you ever regret it? Tyler asked. When you see families like the Whitmores, with their wealth and their security, do you ever wish you'd made a different choice? Dad looked at Mom, and they shared one of those long, married people looks that communicates 1,000 conversations. Never, he said firmly, because I have everything that matters. I have your mother. I have you two. I have a life I can be proud of. The Ashfords had wealth, but they had nothing else. No love, no real relationships, no peace. Just money and misery. I'm sorry, Tyler said again, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry I made you feel like that wasn't enough. Like you weren't enough. You were seduced, Mom said gently. It happens. Wealth is seductive. The Whitmore world is seductive. But now you know what it costs. Everything, Tyler whispered. It costs everything. The story should end there, right? With Tyler learning his lesson, the family reuniting, everyone moving forward. But life is messier than that. 2 months after the wedding that wasn't, I got a call from an unknown number. Emma Morrison? A woman's voice asked. Yes? This is Victoria Chen. I'm an attorney representing the Ashford Family Trust. My blood went cold. I don't understand. My father destroyed. Not the manufacturing company, the trust. Your grandfather, despite everything, maintained a separate family trust. Money that was held independently, that survived the scandal and the trial. Okay. The trust has been searching for Richard Ashford for over 2 decades. The terms of the trust stipulate that if your father could not be located within 25 years, the money would go to charity. We have less than 3 years remaining in that window. How much money are we talking about? Approximately $460 million. I dropped the phone. When I picked it up again, my hands were shaking. That's not possible. Dad said it was all gone. Your father likely didn't know about this trust. It was established by your great-grandfather, not your grandfather. It was hidden, probably deliberately, to protect family assets. What happens if we tell you where he is? The money becomes available to him and his heirs immediately. That's you and your brother, Emma. We've already located you through public records connected to Tyler's engagement announcement. That's how we found you. I need to think about this. Of course. But Emma? I should mention something else. The Whitmore family has also learned about this trust. They're attempting to claim that because Tyler was engaged to Vanessa, there's a potential legal argument for them to access it. That's insane. Yes, but they're litigious and determined. If you don't claim this soon, you may end up in a years-long legal battle with them. I hung up and immediately called my parents. We met at my apartment, all 4 of us. I'd explained the situation over the phone, and now we sat around my tiny kitchen table, processing. $460 million, Tyler said, almost to himself. That's more money than the Whitmores have, I finished. Dad looked sick. I don't want it. I don't want anything from that family. Dad, this isn't from your father, I said. This is from your grandfather. Different generation, different money. Same poison. Maybe, Mom said quietly. Or maybe it's a chance to do something good. To take money that came from a corrupt source and use it for something meaningful. Like what? Tyler asked. Like starting a foundation, I said, idea forming even as I spoke. Like using it to help other people escape toxic families. Fund therapy programs, education scholarships, safe housing for people leaving abusive situations. Dad looked up, something shifting in his expression. We could call it the Second Chance Foundation, Mom added, in honor of the second chance you gave us, Richard. I don't know, Dad said. What if claiming it brings everything back? What if the media digs it all up again? Let them, Tyler said firmly. Let them dig. Let them find out that Richard Ashford did something incredibly brave 23 years ago. Let them know that he chose integrity over inheritance. When did you become so wise? I teased. When I almost married into a family that made me forget what wisdom looks like, he said ruefully. We talked for hours. We debated, we argued, we imagined what we could do with that kind of money. In the end, Dad made the decision. We claim it, but we don't keep it. We use it. Exactly as you said. To help others. To turn something rotten into something good. And if the Whitmores fight us, I asked, then we fight back, together. The legal battle with the Whitmore family was swift and brutal. Patricia hired a team of lawyers who argued that Tyler's engagement to Vanessa constituted a verbal contract that entitled their family to a portion of any assets discovered during the engagement period. It was absurd. It was also expensive to fight. We ended up in mediation, face-to-face with Patricia and Robert Whitmore in a conference room that smelled like expensive leather and desperation. This is ridiculous, I said as our lawyers shuffled papers. You have no claim to this money. Your brother was going to be our son-in-law, Patricia said coldly. That creates certain expectations. He was going to be your son-in-law until you humiliated our family at the wedding, I shot back. You destroyed that relationship, not us. We simply revealed the truth. You weaponized it. There's a difference. Robert cleared his throat. Perhaps we can reach an agreement. We'll drop the lawsuit if you agree to a settlement, say $20 million. My father laughed. Actually laughed. You want $20 million for the privilege of having insulted us? Think of it as compensation for the emotional distress you caused our daughter. Your daughter walked away from Tyler, Mom said. She made that choice, and honestly, I respect her for it. She saw what kind of person your son was becoming. What kind of person? Patricia's voice went sharp. Someone more concerned with money than character, Tyler said, speaking for the first time. Someone who would have become just like you. The room went very quiet. Vanessa deserves better than that, Tyler continued. She deserves someone who sees her, not her bank account. Someone who loves her for who she is, not what she represents. How dare you? Patricia started. No, Robert interrupted, putting a hand on his wife's arm. No, he's right. We all stared at him. Patricia, we've been so focused on status and appearances that we've lost sight of what matters. This lawsuit is beneath us. This whole situation is beneath us. Robert, we're dropping the lawsuit, and we're going to talk to our daughter about what we really want for her life. Not what looks good on paper, but what would actually make her happy. Patricia looked like she wanted to argue, but something in her husband's face stopped her. They left without another word. Our lawyer looked stunned. Well, that was unexpected. People surprise you, Dad said quietly, sometimes in good ways. The Second Chance Foundation launched in March. We kept our names out of it as much as possible, operating through directors and trustees. The goal wasn't publicity, it was impact. We funded shelters for people escaping abusive families. We created scholarship programs for first-generation college students. We established therapy networks for people dealing with family trauma, and slowly, carefully, we started telling our story. Not for attention, not for sympathy, but because we realized that our story might help others, might show people that it's okay to walk away from toxic families, even when those families have money and power and names on buildings. Tyler went back to his real estate job, but with a different perspective. He started focusing on affordable housing projects, using his skills to help rather than just to climb. I still think about Vanessa sometimes, he admitted to me one day over coffee. Wonder if she's okay. She is, I said. I saw her Instagram. She's dating a teacher, looks happy. A teacher, he repeated, smiling. Good for her. Good for both of you. You needed to learn what matters. I did. The expensive way. But here's the thing about stories like this. They don't really end. 4 months after the foundation launched, got a visitor at my apartment. I opened the door to find Vanessa Whitmore standing there, looking nervous. Hi, she said. I hope this isn't weird. I got your address from Tyler. He said it would be okay if I reached out. It's not weird, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure that was true. Come in. She sat on my couch, and I noticed she looked different, less polished. Her hair was simpler, her clothes more casual. She looked, somehow, more real. I wanted to thank you, she said, for what you said at the wedding, about my mother, about the whole situation. I probably said too much. No, you said exactly what I needed to hear. I'd been so caught up in being what my parents wanted that I forgot to think about what I wanted. What do you want? To be more like your family, honestly. To care about things that matter. To build something meaningful instead of just inheriting it. She told me she'd started volunteering at a women's shelter, that she was taking classes in social work, that she'd had a long, difficult conversation with her parents about expectations and authenticity. My mom's still struggling with it, she admitted. But my dad, he's coming around. He's even been asking about your foundation. I think he wants to contribute. That would be welcome. Emma, can I ask you something? Do you think Tyler and I, Do you think we could ever? I don't know, I said honestly. You both needed to grow. You both needed to figure out who you are without all the noise. Maybe someday your paths will cross again, but don't force it. Don't settle for who he was. Wait for who he's becoming. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. After she left, I called Tyler. She came to see me, I said. I know, I told her she should. Was that wrong? No, it was kind. But Tyler, don't rush this. You've both changed. You need to make sure you're changing into people who actually work together. I know, I'm not rushing anything. I wanted her to know that I'm sorry. That I understand now what I didn't understand then. Which is? That love isn't about what someone can give you. It's about who you become when you're with them. And I became someone worse with her before. I need to make sure I'd become someone better now. That's my brother. Finally learning the lessons that matter. It's been a year now since the wedding that never happened. The foundation is thriving. We've helped over 2,000 people leave toxic family situations. We've funded therapy for countless others. We've proven that money from corrupt sources can be redeemed through right action. My parents are happier than I've ever seen them. The secret they carried for over 2 decades is finally out. And instead of destroying us, it freed us. Tyler is dating someone new. A woman who works in affordable housing advocacy. They met through one of his projects. She doesn't come from money. She doesn't care that he almost did. And me? I'm okay. Not great, not terrible, just okay. Which, after everything, feels like enough. I still think about that night by the lake sometimes. The night my parents told me the truth about who they were, who we were. I used to be angry they didn't tell us sooner. Now I understand why they didn't. Some truths are too heavy to carry until you're strong enough to hold them. But here's what I've learned, what I want you to understand if you take anything from this story. Your family's past doesn't define your future. Money can't buy integrity, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from everything you're supposed to want and choose what you actually need instead. My father did that 23 years ago. He walked away from billions, from power, from a name that meant something. And in doing so, he gave us something more valuable than any of that. He gave us a choice. The choice to be good people, not just rich people. The choice to build our own legacy instead of inheriting someone else's corruption. The choice to love without conditions, to give without expectations, to live with integrity, even when no one's watching. That wedding exposed a 23-year family lie, but it also revealed a 23-year family truth. That the people who love you most will sacrifice everything to give you a life worth living, even if you don't understand it until you've almost thrown it all away. Last week, I found a letter on my doorstep. No address, no postage. Just my name, written in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a single page. Dear Emma, you don't know me, but I was at your brother's wedding. I was one of the caterers, actually, part of the staff they hired for the day. I heard everything that happened. Everything your father said about leaving his family, about choosing integrity over wealth. I went home that night and called my parents for the first time in 3 years. You see, my family is complicated, demanding. They want me to be someone I'm not. And I've been avoiding them because I couldn't figure out how to tell them I needed to be free. Your father's story gave me the courage to have that conversation, to tell them I loved them but couldn't live the life they wanted for me. It didn't go well. They may never understand, but I feel lighter than I have in years. I just wanted you to know that what happened that day, as messy and painful as it was, it mattered. It changed someone's life. It changed mine. Thank you. A stranger who isn't a stranger anymore. I showed the letter to my father. He read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it in his wallet. That's why, he said quietly. That's why it was all worth it. Not the money, not the vindication, not even the family reconciliation, but the idea that being honest, being brave, being willing to stand up for what you believe even when it costs you everything, that maybe, possibly, that could help someone else do the same. And maybe that's the real moral of this story. Not that money corrupts, though it often does. Not that family is everything, though love certainly matters. But that your choices ripple outward in ways you'll never fully see. That living with integrity isn't just about you. It's about everyone who's watching, everyone who's struggling with their own impossible choices. My father chose integrity 23 years ago. Tyler chose it at his wedding. I choose it every day when I work at the foundation, when I help people find the courage to leave their toxic families. And somewhere out there, a caterer I'll never meet chose it too. That's the legacy worth inheriting. Not billions of dollars, but billions of chances to do the right thing, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Because in the end, that's all any of us really have. Our choices, and what we choose to do with them.